Good afternoon, everybody. Love seeing the chat going. Yes, happy Wednesday. My name is Hamida Bagarathi, pronoun she, her, hers, and I have the joy, the pleasure to work with folks on centering justice. I also lead out our learning communities. Also want to give a shout out to Carly Frederick. So glad to have you back for today's session. We missed you last month, and we're so glad you're here with us this month. So as we move into this space, right, some of you may be coming from meetings, maybe grabbing some sustenance to have along with our time together. Let's take a transitional deep breath as we move into this place and space. So deep breath in at your own pace. And then slowly release at your own pace. So I join you from Ypsilanti at my home. Welcome to my apartment. On the unceded and occupied lands of the Anishinaabeg, the Odawa, the Potawatomi, which make up the 3 council fires of Michigan, the Sauk and the Fox and the Wyandotte, and land in which contemporary Indigenous people continue to live and thrive and contribute to our collective well-being. As I was thinking about today's session, we're going to be having the fortune of hearing stories and dreaming and inspiration from our speakers today. And I think about what a long legacy, especially from Indigenous peoples, there is around storytelling and meaning making and creating shared understanding. So we have the honor of being able to engage in some of that as a group today. I'll offer a little bit of grounding for Centering Justice as a program. So we started at the very beginning of the pandemic, which feels like eons ago, really as a way to uplift and bring to light all of the incredible work that BIPOC folks and within their community are doing to keep us going, keep us moving forward. And beyond sort of that acute COVID response, and we realize there's so much work that is happening in the community by really strong BIPOC folks who, some of them are able to uplift and amplify their work. And some of them are sort of those like stealthy silent sleepers who are just powerhouses and also sort of doing the work in the background and doing the inspirational piece, but also deserve space. So that is really sort of the evolution of Centering Justice and our hope today. So we always have visionaries, storytellers, doers and healers, and that applies to this group as well, to really help us think about how do we internally and externally interrupt the status quo and help us dream and inspire us to believe and do things differently to create a more just and thriving society. I also want to uplift, as far as new peeps go, we also have with us today Yodit Weston-Johnson, who is our president and CEO, who will be co-facilitating, as well as Carly Frederick, our programs associate, and we'll all be in conversation with our speakers. And after we hear from our speakers, sharing a little bit about their insights, we will close with invitations and demands for action from our speakers. So speaking of speakers, we have 3 today. We have Chase Cantrell. He goes by he, him as his pronouns, who's the executive director of Building Community Value and really leads a diverse team of experts in implementing real estate training, technical assistance, and consulting programs. Chase is a critical voice in Detroit's policymaking and revitalization efforts, advocating for residents who work to restore the physical infrastructure of Detroit's neighborhoods. Chase is also, so long and so good, is a lecturer at the University of Michigan's Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning and professional in residence at the Wisner Center for Real Estate at the Ross School of Business. Also with us is Sharonda Purnell, the owner of the Cocoa Healing Collective. Sharonda hails from the wire streets of Wilmington, Delaware, and is educated in her grandmother's arms and kitchen. Sharonda is known for helping folks master themselves. Operating within her calling at Cocoa Healing Collective, she is a powerful energy worker, helping the marginalized identify and uproot trauma stuck in their bodies. She offers services to hold you while you cry or snuggles for those lacking. She fills the gaps left by Western medicine, A proud wife, mother, and dog mom. There's nowhere in the world she'd rather be than with them. We also have Dr. Naimah Wade, pronoun she, her, hers, who joins us, who is the executive director of 826 Michigan. Dr. Wade is an education practitioner, consultant, and researcher with a passion for creating transformative learning environments and experiences that equalize access and opportunity. She currently acts on this passion through nonprofit leadership and education consulting. Driven by the personal belief that writing is agency, she serves as the executive director at 826 Michigan, a youth writing and publishing organization with education and retail operations in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Detroit. So glad to have all of you with us today.
I mean, just a panel of badasses. Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to soak in the wisdom and the learning, right?
Woo! Y'all are in for a ride today. Hi everyone, Yodit, she, her. Just want to name and appreciate Hamida for bringing our acknowledgement of our Indigenous family and siblings into this space. And we are beginning to practice that in every gathering so that we can push back on systematic erasure. So thank you, Hamida, and thank you for going beyond performing that to connecting your own history and roots, which is so important. Y'all, is it really a new year? Because it just feels like it's 2020 for the third time. I'm gonna just say, I've been on the struggle bus, but I'm really delighted for our conversation today. And I typically kind of get us grounded, and so I'll offer that, like many of you, perhaps, I don't make resolutions anymore. I haven't done that in a while. And I can look back now and see how many of my resolutions in the past were rooted in perfectionism and in feelings of inadequacy. How many times did I mind fuck myself into believing that somehow between December and January, I was gonna start running or working out or eating fewer graham crackers? Yeah, nah. I don't run unless a bear is chasing me. And I'm never giving up on honey grams, though admittedly I do eat fewer of them these days. And the truth is, guilt and shame are not how behavior change happens for me. My health and my well-being has always been tied to others, whether that's my family or my colleagues or the community that I organize, activate, and serve in. And so letting go of that has necessitated healing. And before I can even look ahead, I have had to spend time healing what was behind me. And the biggest shift I've made is beginning from a headspace of abundance. I am okay. You are okay, just as you are. And I can, and I've chosen to surrender stories and narratives and practices, and even the things the world tries to project upon me, in favor of surrendering them and softening to what's possible when I am gentle and easeful and allow myself space. And yes, it is helpful for me to make healthier choices, to move more, and to be more compassionate. But for me, that's more of a journey than it has ever been a destination. And even though I don't make resolutions anymore, I do typically set an intention or identify a word or phrase. Maybe you do too. In fact, I know many of you do. And I use that word or phrase to guide me and to call in what I'm longing for each year. In the past, those words have been more and joy. And honey, last year, unfurling, and that was a doozy. This year, my intention was becoming. And my process is I typically listen and pray and contemplate deeply before deciding on the intention, and then I'll create a vision for the year with that intention in mind. And I rarely edit or revise my intention because of the process I use. But whew, this year was different. Within a week of setting that intention, I found myself coming back to it. back to becoming, or as I've since edited, unbecoming. And why did I make that change? Well, the long story short is that I recognized that the last few years have brought back anxiety and stress that I had previously let go of, particularly around what the future will be for me. And it caused me to fall back into an old pattern of thinking I'm not enough and that I have to become, to put on something or someone different in order to ready myself for the future. And what I know for sure is that I am still healing from all the things of the last few years. And I am letting go of the pressure to know, while intentionally becoming and unbecoming and healing alongside many of you, if I'm honest. And I've been bringing this practice into new. We are unbecoming a place of hyper productivity in favor of an organization that values rest. We're unbecoming and letting go of a culture that is rooted in white supremacist and paternalistic practices. And we are embracing more and more the courage to name what is real and true, as well as love and care for those among us. And I noticed our former CEO, Mike Tyson, is in the audience. And I have to shout out that quickly, that when Mike joined New years ago, he was like, I'm not begging no funders for money. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And today, that could not be further from the truth. I'm not begging anybody to believe in the work or the people who are advancing this work. And so now we transition to our speakers. Thank you for that, Michael. It took me a while to get there, but I feel you, brother. Now I want to move to our speakers who have been literally muses and healers for me. They are and continue to be unbought, unbossed, and unapologetic in their work, in their life purpose, in their choices that you'll hear about, within their industries, their career trajectories, their lives and communities. They are our wildest dreams come true, and they are evidence of that healing and restoration and resolving to release is possible. Their stories promise to help us heal and release, and I can't wait for you to meet them all. Carly?
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. That's such a good opening in addition to some of the brief information Hamida shared. So now we'll turn it over to them. And we always want to invite our speakers to bring their whole and authentic selves into this space. And so in that spirit, we'd love to hear from each of them to tell us about the communities and identities that they are drawing upon as they enter this conversation. And just to get us started, Naimah, would you be willing to go first?
I will try. I'm doing the thing that we're all doing, which is multitasking. So if you hear a tiny voice, then this is the life we're living. Welcome to my office at 826 Michigan in Detroit, where I am piloting a pod for virtual learners who are, tired and unruly, trying to learn at home alone. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay. And I'm also nurturing a 6-month-old baby because we have some maintenance happening at our house today and she could not be there. So I am coming to you in this space, joyful and happy, a descendant of women who rise above challenges and circumstances, and they surface whole. And that is something that I try to hold in front of me. In most of the phases in my life that I've been through, is just remembering the power and the precision of focus that the mothers and the women before me have had as they have moved forward. As you read, I say my zone of influence is in youth development and education. And right now I'm in transition, which you'll hear a little bit more about later today.
Hi, thanks for having me, New, and specifically Yodi. Yodi asked me to be here, and I was like, "Don't she know I'm ignorant?" Like, and she do. She knows I'm ignorant, and here I am. My name is Sharonda. She, her. My practice is called Cocoa Healing Collective because Black Healing Collective was taken, frankly. Um, I focus on healing trauma within Black and Indigenous bodies. And I do that through massage and body work. I do that through walks and cuddles. And I do that through holding people while they cry. I intend to be filling the gaps of Western medicine and caring for my people in a different way. Thank you for having me, OG.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I also want to thank Yodi. I think this will be a recurring theme. I was fanboying as you were talking earlier, Yodi. So just love to hear you talk all the time. But good afternoon, everyone. I am tuning in from my dining room table in Detroit. And as those who know me, I'm a very proud Detroiter, coming from a community of doers. So, I've been reflecting more and more, really this past week, about just all the love and support that I've gotten from this community of folks who are imagining new futures, who are hearkening back to understand what we've done in the past and pulling strength from that to come up with new realities for the future, testing new things, testing new ideas, trying to break all the systems that don't serve us. And, Yudit said she was on the struggle bus, but I think a lot of us are on the struggle bus because that is hard work to do. I think a lot of what I do is trying to understand how the system really functions now, systems function now, and how they harm us, and how to navigate through that as we try to build new things. So it's stressful, but also important work. And I'm just, again, blessed to be part of a community that we're all trying to do that together. I think a lot of people will say that I focus on the built environment. So real estate development, I teach other Detroiters how to do real estate development. I've embarked on this University of Michigan journey. So I'm teaching graduate students who, many of them don't look like me, also about the things that are important to me and how I approach the development ecosystem. And I've been making a lot of folks mad this past week about how I'm also calling people out. And, I have co-conspirators who are egging me on saying, come on, write some more, do more op-eds, do more panels, keep calling them out. So I have assumed that role wholeheartedly, and will continue to do that and work with others to make sure that I can support others who do that as well. So that is a little bit about me and my work.
Thank you so much, Naimah, Sharonda, and Chase, for sharing what you're bringing into this space with us today. So I will briefly reshare what brought us to this gathering today. Resolutions, intentions, commitments, goals. Each new year, we set an outline of how we want to become better and do better. Instead, we should remember we are exactly who we need. Only the year has changed. The world has not. In this new year, how will we nurture compassion, joy, and a community of care while holding that we are who we need? So in that spirit, I thought we could start out with, if you could share, how are you starting the new year? Do you have goals, intentions, or resolutions that you're holding? And if yes, what are they? And Sharonda, actually, if you could start us off, that would be lovely.
I don't do resolutions, but I do got a hit list, right? There's some things I have to do every day to be human, to survive, to make it. So I gotta drink water. Let me tell you what my list is. Drink water, do yoga, and write. That's my hit list. If I do those three things, I will be in a space. So I don't look at it as a resolution. It's just a hit list, and I'm just trying to hit that shit every day.
And I feel the water part. Like I do not drink enough water. So that has always been an intention to do better with that. But in a similar way, I also don't do resolutions. And in fact, I find that, for those who believe in astrology, I'm a Virgo, and Virgo's like control and order. And I'm trying to really release a lot of that. Over the years, I've worked with life coaches and spiritual coaches, and I have a therapist. All of those things are important, and all of them come to the same conclusion, right? I need to, let go of some of that control, the need for predictability. So I'm really trying to lean into that and not have resolutions, right? And just be more in the present, more able to go with the flow, more able to say yes without overthinking, also say no without overthinking. Being able to evaluate things from the gut and just let life happen. And since I've been trying to do that more and more, a lot of things have opened up for me. And I actually feel like I'm able to step into those opportunities a lot more authentically and just perform better, really. So in many ways, trying to get rid of resolutions, trying to get rid of the need for predicting the future, because the future never falls into place the way that we want it to. So just really being whole in the present.
Can I briefly share something about that as Naimah comes on? That I also, and I guess I bet a lot of us on this Zoom have struggled with control. And it wasn't until the last year in therapy that it finally clicked to me that control is a trauma response. And when I could hear that, I can't tell you the number of times my ex would call me a control freak, and I would just shut down, right? Because I didn't have language for it. And I knew there was some truth in it, but I didn't have language. Now to understand that the little Yodit who experienced trauma, right, is trying to protect herself. And so I just wanted to interject that, because I think we can have a different relationship with control when we can have a different relationship with our understanding of why we want to control things. It was just such a transformative moment for me on a personal level. Naimah? Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I just want to just quickly echo that, because what the work with my life coach was to reframe, one, to understand what control was, similar to UOD, why I needed it. There was always the question for any core belief, like, does it serve me? And the answer was just a wholehearted no, right? None of that serves me. So we reframed what control means. So control doesn't mean really anything external. It's control of self, right? Control of emotions, just being able to understand what's happening internally versus trying to control the external world. And that reframing really did help me a lot too.
Man, Yodit, I felt tears when you said what you just said about control being a trauma response. So I'll circle back to that and you on that later. But to answer the question of how I'm starting the year, I am starting the year with some big decisions. I actually am resigning from 826 Michigan, and my last day is Monday. I am doing this for a lot of reasons, but in essence, it has to do with alignment. When you talked about having a word for the year, I do that same thing. I have a process and I write all these things out that I want to see for myself. And what I noticed after my, pandemic therapy stint is that a lot of the tension that I have comes from misalignment between what I'm actually doing and what little Naimah needs, right? Or even what Dr. Naimah needs, because one of the things that I learned is like all of these phases or versions of myself are all here. I'm just experiencing circumstances as I experience circumstances, there's a different version of me driving, right? And so first I've been trying to figure out who's driving here, like who's reacting to the situation. And then are we all in alignment, or are we pulling in different directions? And so my decision to resign really has to do with, you know, my intellect and my professional version of myself wanting to continue to strive, you know, go forward, climb, keep doing more. And then like this different gentle version of myself who also just became a mother for the third time this past summer, wanting to just slow down so that I could actually hold my baby and not call somebody else to hold her because I got to go take care of this thing at this organization that I lead, right? And so I just had to listen to that part, that voice that at this point was very, very quiet, saying, actually, no, you don't have space for that. Actually, no, you can't drive to Ann Arbor because look at all the things that have to happen. And no, you can't be in the space and open up for students and your own kids are at home learning virtually. Like I just felt like I could not be all the things. And so I'm starting the year trying to nurture myself with self-compassion. And it is bittersweet because I do love this organization, but I also have to practice loving me and doing the thing that I need to be doing. And somebody said something to me at the end of the year. I don't even know, maybe I was listening to a podcast or something. Anyway, what was said was that the point of life is living. And I was like, let me sit with that for a second, because am I living? Or am I just like exhausted every day trying to survive? You know what I mean? And that right there kind of sewed it up for me, because I'm actively seeking to live and not struggle and survive. So that's how I'm starting the year, with clarity, big transitions, and a focus on aligning myself towards living.
Hey, this is why I love you. This is why you're here. I could sit at your feet, sis, I swear. And, you know, you shared your decision to step away with me. We've been holding this together. And I have a follow-up question, which is, you know, you've made this decision, right? And you are seeking alignment in what is best for you and for your family. I imagine you're also reacting to other perspectives. And so I want to know how that feels. And actually, if we could, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I felt the depth. There's a moment like 3 sentences ago where I felt the depth of what this decision meant and means for you. And so I'd like to actually begin my question with, where do you feel this decision to retire from your career? Where do you feel that in your body, Naimah? And I don't want to make you cry, but I feel like I'm about to cry.
Oh, yeah, you too late. Where do I feel it in my body? I feel it in my chest, and I feel it right here, this shoulder right here.
You need Sharonda to get on that.
I do. You've told me so much about her. I promise I'm coming to your table, Sharonda. I promise. Yeah, I literally feel it. I feel it in my chest because my heart feels lighter. I feel like I was approaching the work with the heart of a mother who really cares and wants to make sure everything is right for the organization. And I don't even know if that's really healthy. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you that's my style. And but yeah, when I wrote when I wrote the letter of resignation, I wrote it 4 times. I tried to send it probably another 8 times. I kept going like, ooh, like, oh God, what are people going to say? How are they going to react? They're going to be disappointed. They're going to worry about the organization. They're, all these other things outside of me. But when I finally let me tell you, one of our fellow ladies that we know in Detroit, Berhinda, she
Yeah.
posted a graphic on social media, and it said, "I decided to bet on myself," and I was like, "Send." Right? And I was like, I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know why. I just, when I hit send, I was in my own little she hive that I've made in my house in the wake of the pandemic because I just needed a sanctuary. And I hit enter. I was sitting on the chaise lounge and I felt the elephant. It like stepped off one at a time. Boom, boom. And I was just like, oh, like I slept so sweetly that night. But then when I woke up, the guilt, it came flushing over me, right? It was like, oh my God, what have I done? So, I mean, that is how I felt. I feel it in my body, but also my sleep was sweeter, and it has been getting that way, as I approach the day. Not because I want to be like so done with them, but because I feel like physically like I'm embracing me.
And I know I don't have to tell you this, but you can pick that baby and hold her if you need to, right?
I will.
Your
She's
camera.
supposed to be asleep, but you know how that goes.
I just want to invite whatever you need to do. And if you like, I'm gonna wait on that question because I do have a follow-up one. That's okay too.
Okay.
The reason why I want to stay here for a second is just, we hear like this broadly, this great resignation, that people are, making decisions aligned with their values. I was joking with a friend that the white feminists didn't recognize that Black women would have 2, 3, 4 jobs, right? When they decided that we wanted to be in the workforce, did they think it through all the way? And I also have a question later because it is obviously there's some privilege associated with some of the decisions that y'all are making and that others are making, and I do want to acknowledge that. But where I wanted to come back with you, Naimah, is for folks who are resolving to release a career or a job, as was your choice. You obviously heard different folks' perspectives, and I just want you to share with folks like how you responded to that, and like, do you have a whole plan laid out for what you're doing next? And like you got that all jotted down and figured out, and we're gonna get the big announcement next week.
So let me answer the second question first. No, I'm not leaving 826 for another opportunity. I'm not. I don't really I don't even know what the next thing is. I'm just trying to collect myself. Because to your point, like I've just scattered myself so thin on the waters that I just need to like, can I just collect and just hide in a room for a couple of days?
To unbecome, right?
Yeah.
To unbecome all the things. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what feels good. That feels like, oh, a piece of me. Like, bring that back. Oh, I have missed you. Come on back. Right?
Now you got a whole PhD. You've been out here in these streets doing the thing professionally, right? You are, okay. So what do we say to the dissenters?
What do we say to the
dissenters?
Well, that's real. That's real. So one of the things that I have been trying to do is a lot of work, not only to lead the organization, but to also leave it gracefully, right? So I've been having these meetings with all of our big partners, big funders, big donors. And when they ask me the what's next question, and I'm like, well, right now I'm just going to take some time, right? They're all like, you can hear it in their voice. They're not saying it, but it's kind of like, right? Like, and so in those moments, I found myself feeling that tightness come back in my chest, like I'm responsible for people feeling good about my decisions. But then I quickly get over that because I'm like, I have to sleep with me at night, not you, right? And I want to do it peacefully and soundfully, and I want to be able to show up fully for my family. And I just can't own their disappointment anymore. But it is real, and it's an unfair pressure that is put on people to have it all together and to be thinking like, it does disrupt the status quo, right? To not be going after a next thing with all these credentials. But the point of life is living, and I'm not living going after the status quo like everybody thinks I should be. And I'm trying to give some time to myself to make sure I can do.
I just think that was so important for folks to hear, because it's okay to not know. And
Yeah.
what you say, I got to sleep with myself at night, not you. That's a whole word. Chase, let me bring you in here. We're talking about resolve to release. And there are all these limiting beliefs associated with, as we said, with resolutions, with whatever, even intentions. There can be it just in life. I need to be thinner. I'm not good enough. I got to set an intention, but it's always like be better. It's never just stay where you are. Like just keep doing what you're and it made me think about like the ways in which, and folks who visit Centering Justice often know that I talk a lot about how our worth is tied to work. Hello, capitalism. So many people have their career define who they are. That's why Naimah's witnessing and testimony is so powerful. All the pieces of her that she wants to pull together. I'm just curious, when the end of one's career comes and you're starting fresh with who am I, it must be liberating, as Naimah shared, and scary and courageous to honor yourself. You made some pretty bold decisions in your career path.
Yeah, so everything Naimah said resonated with me as well. So when I was 30, and I can almost see 40 now, when I was 30, I left the law firm. Similar things, right? The resignation letter, the anxiety around it, other, the partners at the firm not understanding the choice. But what gave me some, not really peace, but it made me know that I was on the right track, is that this particular firm didn't have an exit interview process. They still don't, to my knowledge. But I was one of those associates I was in the good graces of the partners at the firm. So I was able to have lunches and drinks and dinner with them before I left, right? I had a 6-month period. I think I gave them really early notice. It was a long time. So I got a chance to unpack it with them, and I wasn't going to another firm. So they didn't feel threatened by the departure. In fact, they were curious about it, right? Like, same questions. What are you going to do? How are you going to live? Like, why are you leaving the practice of law? All those things. But they were also very honest because they weren't threatened. And almost all of them said they were not happy with their jobs, right? Some of them had been practicing for 20 or 30 years. They had just sort of gotten caught up in life, right? They had families and they had bills and they had, they were paying for their children's college tuition, all those things. And they were making lots of money, but they weren't really happy with what they were doing. So in a way, they were curious about what I was doing, but also they were projecting in a sense like, oh, could I have done that when they were younger? So for me, same sense of just like relief after I said it. Like, I'm glad that I was able to do this. I can go explore the world a little. I left the country for a year to, following Josephine Baker and James Baldwin. I just left to try to see if I wanted to be somewhere else in the world, and wanted to rebuild my life in a different way. And what was amazing for me is that I realized how much I love this place and how much I felt called to be in this place and to do work here, that it helped me to understand what my journey was and could be, and really wanted to come back, right, to this community and this family that I have here, to continue my journey. But yeah, no plan, really. It was sort of open-ended. And I eventually decided to start a nonprofit, which again, all those same questions of what are you doing, right? Your path should be focused on capitalism. You should be making money. You should be building your career. Like, this is crazy. Ruined my credit, start a nonprofit from scratch without philanthropy behind you isn't always the easiest thing. So I was on the struggle bus for a year and a half until that first grant hit. And ever since then, like, just nothing but doors have continued to open. So, it took some time to get there, but a funder, literally yesterday, a funder and a friend, he jokingly said, I don't think there was real concern behind the joke, but he's like, listen, you got 10 jobs. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just a typical Detroiter, right? Like getting my hustle on, but it's all things that I love. So I'm able to invest my time the way that I want and to work with the people that I want. So it's been an incredible decade.
Wow. What about you, Sharonda?
Yeah, I took that leap different, though along the same lines. I had the cushy benefits, right? I had to give up those cushy benefits in the middle of a pandemic because my life changed. Those who know me know I was gifted a daughter, and all of a sudden my family dynamics look different. And I had to make some choices on what was most important for me. So in the middle of that pandemic, I left cushy benefits, and it's amazing though that I didn't realize the places that I would be making money since I decided to go full-time in my own practice. I didn't anticipate getting paid to cuddle with people, but here I am mastering capitalism.
I'm just soaking that in, Sharonda, right? I think what you just shared is that you didn't think you'd get paid to cuddle people, really express and share love and healing with people. And you're still mastering that capitalism shit within what we have to navigate. So I heard themes from Dr. Wade, from Chase, from Sharonda, all about being able to find this sense of knowing between what is sort of the right way, or the way that I think on paper we should live our lives and lead our lives, and then finding something that is a more deeper and authentic truth. And sometimes I think about how it can be complicated to pull apart those and discern between the two. So really curious, how does it feel different in your body, in your heart? How does it feel different for you when you can surface that whatever is true for you is different from whatever is right or the right path? And how do you approach it?
I can tell you, and maybe I'll start. Just because we're following the things that we love doesn't mean that the work isn't hard at times. But I feel like being in your purpose allows you to move through challenges differently. Like I often, again, this goes back to the control conversation, right? Like the anxiety that comes around the idea of the need for perfectionism, the idea of getting it right, the idea of excelling, like those things in a way fall away, or I'm able to move through them more quickly because I'm doing joyful, purposeful work that is aligned with the journey, my life's journey. So some of the things still show up in my body in the same way, but I'm able to reframe more quickly. Like there's keeping the eye on the prize, right? Like I know why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm moving through the challenges that I'm moving through. Rather, like why am I putting myself through this? So I no longer have that sense of why am I doing this to myself? Now it's like I know the purpose of the work. Oh, I also wanted to thank Naimah publicly. So there's a book called The Alchemist that she recommended, and I read it over the weekend. It's a short read. It takes three and a half hours to read it. It's so super short. It is an amazing book. And for those who, I recommend that everyone reads it. I actually got it for free from the Detroit Public Library, so I downloaded it for free as an ebook. And it just talks about the journey of life, what the journey means, and it's a rich book. The spoiler is life is about the journey. And it really, really coincides with all the things that we're talking about and just certainly my own spiritual journey.
I'm so glad you got a chance to read it, Chase. I can't wait to talk to you about it. I want to say that, how does it feel in my body when I know I'm making the right choices? A couple of things that come to mind are, I feel like I have a higher degree of pleasure when I'm present in whatever I'm doing. So I know that I'm going in the right direction because there is a sense of joyfulness and pleasure associated with whatever I'm doing, right? And I also feel somehow like creativity is like a faucet for me. So when I'm moving in the right direction, the faucet is on and I feel ideas sparking and I feel like I know I can imagine a future that I can see myself in. When I can't see myself in the future, then I'm moving in the wrong direction.
For me, it feels easy. Operating in my calling feels easy. That's how I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. It's just a level of things that don't have to shoulder when I'm operating in my calling. I think that that's where a lot of us go wrong because we're not operating where we're supposed to be. And so we get misaligned, right? So it feels easy when I'm doing what Spirit wants me to do.
That's a perfect segue. I participated, I got to shout out Detroit's own Rebecca Thompson from Living Your Light boot camp. I participated last fall in a masterclass for quote unquote high achieving Black women. And we were gonna like figure out our plan, right? to untether ourselves in this 4-month program. And y'all, I got to the end and I was like, oh shit, I do not know what the plan is. I don't know what magic to monetize, none of this. And then it just like catalyzed some of that anxiety I shared. But one of the plethora of resources that Rebecca introduced us to, Carla, was the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And one of the things that Hendricks talks about is where we spend our time and breaks it out into these quadrants. So the zone of incompetence, which is stuff we're not good at, that we should not be doing, and wherever possible, surrendering, delegating, giving away. You can think of a plethora of things, I'm sure. There's the zone of competence, right? You could do it, but so could somebody else, right? And so again, how much of your time is spent trying to do things that you're competent at? And then there's your zone of excellence, which Hendricks calls what the world knows us for, right? And that really hit me in the gut. The world more recently knows, my work at New, right? And over the last decade, my work, in nonprofits. And before that, my work in economic development. That zone of excellence is what the world knows us for. And then finally, Hendricks talks about the 4th quadrant, which is the zone of genius. And they describe the zone of genius as our innate gifts, the things that, as you said, Sharonda, we do easefully, or if we want to quantify it, like the things that you love that you would do for free, you would cuddle Black bodied people for free, right? If you could, and probably do if I know you. And so it got me really thinking about how unconsciously, when we're affirmed in that zone of excellence, right? When the world is like, yes, yo, D, that's your thing, that's what have you. When you start imagining the untethering or shifts that Naimah and Chase and you have made, for me at least, it was dizzying. I hadn't spent so much time busy in my excellence, I can't even tell you what my genius is. And then because Chase of control, then when I couldn't figure it out, I started with, see, you really ain't got no genius. All you can do is do, I mean, like really deficit thinking, if I'm being honest and fully transparent. And that wasn't the only thing I thought, but that was certainly, where I went with this invitation to explore my genius. And luckily, and I think you all have talked about the power of the collective, when I was in a moment of despair around that question, it was somebody I loved that was like, hey, I can witness and be a mirror for you. And then they were able to kind of pour into me. So the question is, or I guess sort of where I want to maybe hear a bit more from you all, is when we slow down to listen, we can uncover wisdom inside of us. It's likely that my zone of genius is not, under some rock I never knew before, but something I maybe haven't tuned into. How do we till that zone of genius, y'all? How do we stir it up? Sharonda?
I think we gotta put ourselves first in a position so that we can feel our genius. I think some of us are so bogged down by the big systems, the patriarchy, right? Religious oppression, right? We're so bogged down by these big systems that it's hard for us to operate in our genius. So one of the things I do is like, when you come here, we get to take all that off for a little bit. Some people don't even know how much they're carrying on their shoulders. The first thing we got to do is create space so that you can see where your genius lies. So finding spaces where you can take off those big systems that you're wearing will enable you to get to understand yourself and where your genius lies.
And Yodit, I love that you said that you had someone that could mirror some things for you. So recently I've been on this journey because my spiritual coach suggested that I do this practice of talking to my closest friends and essentially asking them what they see. And I had a list of about 12 questions, right? One of those questions literally is, what do you see that I might not see? What are my talents? What are my strengths, weaknesses? What's my potential? And I really thought, I even interviewed like my oldest friend, like over 20 years. And I thought that there would be disparate answers, right? I really did think that different people who have come into my life at different moments would say different things, but they all said the same things. Sometimes different language, but the strengths, weaknesses, talents, potential, like they were all seeing similar things. And it really forced, and it was all really nice things too. So it forced me to like sit with my own potential, right? Like I've been rejecting things like, no, my path can't be this. No, my genius zone is not this. But if everyone is saying, no, that really is your genius zone, stop rejecting that. It forces me, to Sharonda's point, to like get quiet and find space to like really digest that. And also work through it in therapy, because I've been doing that too. But your friends and family can tell you a lot.
Yodi, when you said like so busy in your excellence, that like really like make my ears perk up, kind of slap me a little bit, like, because that is really the thing that I am seeking to personally disrupt is, just how to get off of this treadmill that is not moving you anywhere as a human. It's moving you, you're busy and you're active and you're sweating and you appear to be exerting all this energy, but you are empty on the inside or just not fulfilled. I think that hearing you say that, to me, is one of those things that catalyzes me into the desire to want to till this zone of genius, as you have shared with us. I mean, one of the ways I do that personally, like Chase said, I do read The Alchemist every year at the beginning of the year because I think it's so it's something that just helps me to get centered and ask myself, am I listening to that voice? You heard Sharonda say, we are so bogged down, we can't hear our genius. Did you hear her say that? So one of the messages in The Alchemist is that you always hear that voice, but the older you get and the way, how does he say it? The older you get, the voice gets quieter and you start to take less and less and less steps toward it, right? And I think that is very true. And so I go to that book. I do a lot of reading, and I also find that sometimes some of the things I read call out to me in ways that they probably, maybe don't to other people, but I use that as a way to see myself and ask myself, am I moving in this direction that I know there's something in me that just knows that this is the right way? Or am I feeling tension or contradiction in my spirit? I will say one last thing. I've been talking a lot about books, right? So one of the books I read last year was I forget her last name, Dr. Joy something, but post-traumatic slave syndrome. Does anybody know her last name?
Dr. Joy DeGroy. I love her.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharonda. So I really believe that the way that the trauma passes through us generationally, and that the trauma from slavery, I mean, this is deep and we can maybe do this on another conversation, but I think that it is the thing that is the barrier, and it's why we tend to go to the zone of excellence, like what appears to be the thing that you do well. It's downloaded into our DNA to be pleasers, have a servant mentality. Like, if you think about it, even though you weren't here, Yodit, or Sharai, all of us, right, were in the womb of our grandmother. I don't know about y'all, but my grandmother picked cotton. Okay, so she's still alive, and she could tell me about dragging her children on cotton bags, her twin babies, because there was no childcare, right? And so to me, that picture of this woman doing this laborious act of picking cotton with a baby, and I sit here with the baby right now, just to imagine why she felt like she had to carry all that makes me say, why do I have to carry all this? This is not that time. And then I remember, oh yeah, that post-traumatic syndrome is the reason why I automatically thought I had to do that. But let me choose to do something different today because I can, and I've earned the right to.
I want to chime in here. And we could go on for a long time about this part, but I'm on an ancestry journey, just discovering the amazing stories of people in my family, right? And we do, like, there's a lot of trauma. I think in a lot of families, not just Black families, it's a lot of trauma that we all go through, and we carry forward. But there's also, for me, joy and power in learning how they overcame so much, right? How they were innovating in their own periods of time and places against struggles that I can't even, like your grandmother, struggles I can't even begin to comprehend, right? So it helps me understand the trauma, but some of the tenacity and like the fighting spirit that I have in me, like, it also helps me to remember why I have those things and how I can use those things, because they also used it.
Also just thinking about how, like, just to your point, Chase, we carry so much in our line that sometimes it can be super confusing when we rest, right? Like, don't forget that we make it by resting, that a part of what our ancestors prayed for was that we could put our feet up in a way that they never could. So rest is really radical for us. Slowing down is really radical for us, and I do mean Black and Indigenous people, because our genetics really want us to always be working, because that's what we're used to. It's literally built in us to always be working and doing and moving. So we're really rewriting our code right now when we choose to be radical and rest.
Oh, Sharonda, that really struck emotion in me for you to say that that rest is radical and rewriting our code, like to tell ourselves that it's okay, it's okay. And when you said I don't know exactly the phrase you just said, but we do recharge. I mean, I think about we use these cell phones and stuff all the time. We have them on our hip. If we leave our house, we're turning around to go back and get them, right? They have to be plugged up every night in order to help you make it through the day. And that's how they power up. And how often do we not do the necessary thing for ourselves that helps us to power up? So thank you for naming that.
I had a client yesterday. It was really interesting. A Black man getting a massage for the first time in his life. And I had to like talk him into letting me touch his feet. And I was like, look, dude, it's not that I like feet or anything. It's just that you walk on them all the time. So you might want to take care of that which holds you up. And all that to say, you know, when he gets off my table, he's wondering why he's in tears. People have a whole thing when their body begins to get what it really, really needs. So just want us to really pay attention to rest.
Hey, Sharonda, can you share your thinking around the word ease? As I feel like that's a good answer too to what Yodit was talking about, her question about how to till, you know, our truth.
Everybody's got their own way, right? So, but my way, if you know, I'm a Sag Leo Sag, so that's a lot of fire in my chart. So my way is fire. I will bonfire for no reason. I will bonfire so that I can ask for things. And so I can call ease into my life. That's the way in which I call ease into my life. If you begin to call for the things that you want, they will actually start showing up. So my practice, you know, I went from working, you know, the 40-hour hardcore, hard labor work, and now I work 20 hours in capitalism, and I work 20 hours at home. I just manage my time, you know, a little different because I want an easy life. My life is easy because I got a good team too, make no mistake. I think Yodi earlier mentioned that some of us had some privilege, and I certainly got, my wife is in the chat, hey babe, some privilege. She always says that she goes to make the money so that I can change the world. If you sit in front of me, you know, I am a world changing person, so I need ease. I deserve ease because I give so much. So I want ease. I want everything else to be easy while I go do this work on behalf of my people. That's really the big reason why I call ease, because I need it to. I need easy. You can ask for it. Ask spirit, whatever you believe, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, all of them, ask for what you want.
Almost every centering justice, there's a moment like this. And I'm learning to let it rest for a second. Oh. All right, Amita, take us to our next question, sis.
Sorry, I'm still holding that. Yodit, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I asked for some grace and that actually, I think looking at our time, do we feel moved to move on to demands, or do we want to try to shimmy in one more question?
I'm not ready to stop, but maybe we can incorporate all of it.
So,
You feel like Chase to me. I'm
all
here
right.
for this food.
So Sharonda, you brought up so much, and all of you, Chase, Dr. Wade. But I think about, I personally, I do believe that all of us have divinity in us that we are able to draw upon and tap into for strength. And that I love the word alchemize, that we are able to alchemize what we desire. One thing along my own personal journey is sometimes, given my background, I think about what it means to wish and dream and long for something. And when it is alchemized or I'm at its precipice, I'm like, oh shit, this is hard. I'm scary. This is scary. Did I want this? I don't know. And I think about what it might take to switch a little bit when one is at the door of what one seeks, and when like doubt or whatever else comes up. Like what are some of your thoughts or insight into how to be able to receive that in some way and navigate that?
Acceptance. You got to get that it's going to physically feel the same as failure when you make it. It's going to physically induce the same feeling as fear when you make it, because we're not used to having this. It's going to be this new. New is going to feel like fear when you first get it. But if you understand what's happening, when you start to feel those feelings, then you can pull them in and weld it. That's when we get into the word alchemize. We can alchemize them and put them into, make it into something new. Just remember that we're rewriting code right now, literally at a genetic level, right? So when you make it, you may feel like, I don't know, when you put those feet up, you might feel like a little guilt about it. But don't forget, there's some of our lines was in the fields for so long, they never got a chance. They never got a chance to do these things. So you're gonna physically feel backwards for a little bit until you can re-trick your brain into believing that you deserve it, right? That you're due, right? That you come in to collect on behalf of your ancestors, right? Every time you put your feet up and relax and rest, every time you opt out of big systems that were meant to take you out, right? Every time you do that, you are rewriting your own code. And we get to pass something different down. You know, we talked earlier about what's in our lines. Hard is in our line. I reject that shit now. I'm not doing hard, I'm doing easy.
And I find it's important to have a Sharonda in your life, to have a Yodit, to have a Naimah, right? Like folks who remind you that you deserve the things that are coming to you, right? Because I think as we're learning the new skills to reframe in our bodies for ourselves, it helps to have the reinforcement from the community that can say, no, you need to put your feet up, you need to rest. Like you've worked for this, you deserve it, you're worthy of the thing. One of my good friends and a great Detroiter, Orlando Bailey, we have these conversations all the time. And recently, and I posted about this last night, he said something that's just been reverberating in my mind over and over again. He said to me that I keep thinking about precedent, things that have happened in the past. But he's like, he firmly believes that God has blessed us to be trailblazers, right? Like we can create new futures. Like we don't have to be bounded by the things that have happened. And but for friends like him and others and many others, you know, I don't know that I would receive those messages and I would be able to refrain from myself. So yeah, part of it is learning is the learning for ourselves, but also the positive reinforcement from the community.
Naimah.
I don't know if I have much to add to this. I just want to lift up this idea. Sharonda, I think you just set me ablaze with this idea of like rest being an act of justice, being an act of resistance. Like that's what keeps coming up into my brain as I kind of think about the answers and, this whole conversation. And that I'm reminded, Dee, we've had this conversation that the pandemic showed me how busy I was. And it also showed me what a life of more ease could look like because there was less busyness. It was still a lot to do, but there was less running around to have to do it. And so that I think probably was the start of me deciding to collect myself and to actively just opt out. No, thank you anymore of some of the busyness. And really, I find myself scratching to hold on to some of the joy that I actually experienced. Yes, the pandemic was really difficult. It was heartbreaking to see so many friends and loved ones, leave this form, and transition into another form. But I also saw the lesson in it for myself, which is you can have a life that is not so hectic. And when you do, you're even in a more positive and peaceful place. And so I don't know, that's something I'm trying to hold on to what I experienced and what I helped my family to experience in that time.
I want to acknowledge that when we were planning and you all were sharing your experiences of resolving to release, that one of our follow-up questions was like, how did you do that practically? And in this moment, I actually don't want to ask that question because I think, Sharonda, what you put on the floor for us is in talking about, the fire, right? Go to the fire and set that intention, but also you've reminded us a number of ways today that we can't do it alone, that we have to care for each other, right? As we take those systems off our back. So I like where I was concerned that there might be people on the Zoom who would be like, well, that all sounds good, but I'm not gonna lie, it's me, right? I'm a single mama, primary earner. Like, how in the hell am I gonna step back, right? At this point, at the crest of my career, like, how am I gonna make it? And I know that I know that I will be okay, but I just want to name that that okay might look different than anything I could conceive of in this moment, that different can't even be birthed if I'm so busy, feeling all the time now that Naimah shared. It can't be birthed if, as Chase shared with us, if we are unwilling to extend the gift and the tenderness of witness from others, right? And the truth of the witness of others. So this is usually a time where we ask our guests also, like, what demands or what invitations might you have? And so I want to open it up if you do. And then y'all have inspired behind the scenes me to share a piece that I've been working on as we wrap up around 125 or so. So, will I've released achievement. So demands or invitations, y'all, anything come to mind?
Yeah, so opt out of whiteness.
Mm.
I was talking to my white friend yesterday. I was like, white people sick of whiteness. Opt out of whiteness. Whiteness says you got to work yourself to the bone, right? It says you always got to be doing and you don't. I aspire to have enough money to do nothing. My aspiration is nothing. Why on earth would I want to be made to do anything? So I work enough so I ain't got to be told what to do. opt out of whiteness. That's my ask.
On the piggyback of that, I am inviting more blank space on my calendar. That's what I'm inviting. I am actively pursuing leisure. And I am reminded, my faith has taught me that your gifts make room for you. And I've always, even before I was in this role at 826, I've always had a consulting firm operating in the background. Why not? I can zero in on that a little bit more. I can expand that a little bit more and follow my joy. When I'm ready, though, when I'm ready, because I've just given birth to a child. Women do amazing things with their bodies and they take 10 months to build a human. I'm only 6 months on the other side of it. I'm still physically healing, and getting my system back to some normalcy. And I'm going to do that well this time. And so, yeah, that's what I'm inviting: blank space and time on my calendar, because the back-to-back meetings I'm done with that.
And I would say that I would invite everyone to welcome abundance. And this really is a note to myself. And I've sort of touched on it a little bit, but when we see it, sometimes we reject it in our lives. And abundance could look different for all of us, right? That could be rest. That could be, any sort of career opportunity. It could be whatever abundance looks like, but to know that we are worthy of that abundance and to welcome it in, instead of believing that we don't deserve it. And to some extent, I can't take complete credit for that. So Lauren Hood, who is a great Detroiter, talks about Black thriving as being audacity, agency, and abundance. That's her working theory on what Black thriving is. And for me, like, the abundance part is really what I need to work on a lot in my life. So that's why I'm leaning into that one. But yeah.
This conversation was everything I longed for and so much more I couldn't have anticipated. Thank you. All right. Each of you inspired, I don't even know how to enter this, but I'm gonna tell y'all. So my daddy is Ethiopian. I have a grandmother who's in Ethiopia. I probably have only been in person with her 5 times in my nearly 50 years, but I've never felt more spiritually connected to someone. And my dad shaped my entire identity. And he is the reason, for all his flaws, he is the reason I am who I am. And shout out to my mom too. But I got a text from my cousin who sent me a YouTube video, a 6-minute video of my grandmother that's fully in Tigrinya, our native language. So I don't even know what it says. But her note said, "Good morning. I'm going to get this translated for you. But just so you know, your grandma's a boss." And she says, when she ran for parliament, the man that she competed against said, "How could a woman, someone who knees down to pee, ever compete with me?" And her response was, "A woman is who birthed you and all the great heroes of this world. So how dare you say that? You are insulting your own mother." And so these are, like, I get these little messages, from her that come spiritually and come in gifts like this. And I've been thinking a lot, Sharonda, about, and actually it was Will who said, on one of our centering justices, this is not what our ancestors fought for, these systems that we have on our back. So when you said they fought for us to rest, that really resonated. And I've been thinking a lot about healing, to your point, Naimah, generational trauma. We do carry the wounds of our history globally in our wombs. And we are actively birthing and midwifing a new world while simultaneously healing the harm of the world we were born into. And so I wrote this piece called I Wonder If They Knew. And the context is our systems are failing us. They were never built to serve most of us, especially Black, Indigenous, queer, trans, immigrant, refugees, those that are differently abled, elder folks, and young people. And young folks have been saying for generations that we all deserve better. The world that I envision is only possible in mutual care and based on the belief that well-being and dignity and respect and agency of all of us are how we measure success and how we measure community and how it's governed. And each generation shares in that responsibility, including myself, and in the belief that all beings are connected, including Mother Earth. So I wrote, I wonder if Mama Harriet knew when she ran through those woods and raided the Combahee Ferry, while the ancestors left behind toiled in blazing heat of the Mississippi sun, picking and wading through the brutality of these colonized lands. I wonder if they knew, as they offered their bosom, nursing, tending, and raising Massa's children after kneeling in prayer for their own baby's safety. I wonder if they knew. I wonder as they rubbed lard in the bottom of the cast iron pans, boiled the chitlins and plucked the greens, did they know? Did Auntie Shirley know when she walked off the sidelines and into the halls of Congress? When she told us we are our own best thing, did Toni Morrison know? And Ella Baker when she said, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. Did Audre Lorde know when she poured poetic truth into our spirits, proclaiming that revolution is not a one-time event? Did Anita Hill know that Tawana Burke would clap back so hard she would revolutionize the words, Me Too? And when the fires overtook Tulsa, did they know? When our grandmothers and mothers and caretakers smeared Vaseline on our sweet brown school-ready cheeks, did they know? When ashy knees and unbrushed teeth got scurried back to the bathroom, did they know? Did butterscotch and peppermint candy church ladies know? Did they know that our hearts would hold all of the struggle? Did they know that we quietly come undone and then put on our masks to unapologetically lead our homes and firms, manage our responsibilities, and raise up next generations? Did they know their wounds came through their womb? Did they know that, did we know that they were super women and we now strap on our capes too? Did they know all that resilience and struggle and courage would be held in our spirits even now? And that we would feel the weariness centuries later? Did they know we never lose the drumbeat of Africa, even when the world tries to snatch it from our souls? Did they know we would be developers and laborers and massage therapists and cuddlers and partners and sponsors and media moguls? Did they know that y'all would be unbought and unbossed? Did they know we would fully fill out the meaning of Black girl magic, Black boy joy, and Black girl and boy and them tired? That we doubt and question ourselves and everything, and still, as Maya said, we would rise? Did they know that we would hold each other up, and on the rough days and in moments like this, life would leave us in awe? Did they know that we would carry their love notes deep in the back of our hearts? Did they know that in our moments of doubt and dis-ease and self-loathing, the days when imposter syndrome comes and genius goes, that we would find rest and solace in the wisdom and guidance of their teachings? Did they know we would be so gifted at honing in on the truth and depths of our being? We Black, we brown, we able and differently abled, we high achieving phenoms, we trans, we queer, we We reclaiming joy, self, love, healing, tenderness, authenticity, empathy. Did they know we would become the warm respite that we each needed? Did they know we'd remind each other frequently of how truly valuable, lovable, worthy we truly are, and that we would bask in the brilliance and glow of one another? Did they know that we would tell their stories and our stories when no one else would? We are coming to collect on behalf of our ancestors. Did they know? And I want you to say with me, of course they did. Let's say that together. Of course they did. Of course they did. Peace, y'all. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Nice meeting everybody.
Yodit, I'm just feeling some resonance from what you just shared. That was incredible. Thank you so much for letting us in to share in what you're holding and you're feeling and you're writing. Oh my God, you gotta publish. But I also would be remiss if I did not share that we want to know how you experienced this session, how things landed. What do you hope that we explore next? Help co-create and develop with us. So I just shared a link to our survey. Please take a few moments to let us know. Yes, Judy agreed. So we both got to talk to Yodit and make sure we keep mentioning getting published. Carly, anything that you wanted to add for this?
No, I think we can just have a song close this out and transition into your next thing in this day. Thank you all for joining us.